All right, good morning. So today we're going to move on from monomials to polynomials to actually multiplying binomials. Okay. Before we go ahead and do that, remember that if we have something that looks like this, we go ahead and we distribute the first piece all the way through. What we might have also noticed is that sometimes we make errors with our exponents or with numbers because there's sometimes just a lot of stuff. I'm going to show you a little trick. So what I like to do is I know I have to distribute this ABC to each piece on the inside. I also know that all these pieces on the inside are not alike. I can't combine them. Sometimes I like to go ahead and write it underneath. You got to remember, you're not adding here, you're multiplying, but it helps you to be able to see it just a little bit easier. I also like to go ahead and start with my letters first. Okay. So first of all, my ABC on the outside is positive, so there's going to be no sign changes involved. Yay. Okay. I also do my letters first, my variables first, and their exponents. So I also know that each of these exponents on ABC has an exponent of 1. You might want to write that in there. It's up to you. And also, within the problem itself, this B has a 1, this C has a 1, this A, and this B. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put exponents on everything. Now I'm just going to go ahead and combine them. So I have 2 A's and then 1 A. So I have a total of, I don't know why it keeps doing that, 3 A's. I have 1 B in the problem, 1 B on the outside. So I have a total of, don't know why it's doing that, guys, 3 B's or 2 B's. All right, and I don't have any C's in the parentheses, but I do have a C on the outside, so I have 1 C. My minus sign is going to stay, and I have 6 being multiplied by nothing, so I have my 6. I have a total of 2 A's. I have only 1 B, and I have a total of 2 C's. Again, my sign's not going to change. I have a total of 1 A. I have a total of 2 B's. And I have a total of 3 C's. All right. So, and this is what I get. I can't combine anything. So I'm kind of done. If you can't combine anything in the parenthesis, you won't be able to combine anything after the fact. Sorry. Now we're going to go ahead and multiply two binomials, okay? Strictly binomial multiplication. Binomial multiplication is still the distribution property, okay? It really is just distribution, all right? We just have to kind of be careful about how we go ahead and approach it so we don't miss anybody. To make us not forget, you've probably heard of the acronym called FOIL. Okay, so when it's two binomials, we can use this idea of FOIL to make sure when we're distributing, we're not missing anybody. And all that stands for is first, outer, inner, and last. And some of you may have another way you go ahead and make this, but first, outer, inner, last. So let's go ahead and look at it. The first means we're going to take the first variable in the first binomial, multiply it by the first in the second binomial. So these are our first. This is our F. All right, so we're going to take X and multiply it by X. The next one is outer, which means we're going to take our outermost 2 variables. All right. So we're going to multiply this X with this 2. Then we're going to go ahead and do the innermost 2. So our innermost 2 are 3 and X. We're going to go ahead and multiply those. Actually, I want to do it down here. So I'm going to have 3 times x. And then our last ones, or our last 2 in each binomial, which is 3 times 2. All right. When we multiply all this together, we have x to the 1 times x to the 1. Okay, that's just adding my exponents, so x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Now this is all pluses, so we have all pluses in between, so plus 2 times x. 3 times x plus 3 times x, and 3 times 2 plus 6. All right. Almost always what's going to happen is in the middle, you're going to have like terms, which means you can actually add these two things together. So 2x plus 3x is going to give me 5x, and that's my middle. And then the 6 is just going to drop on this side, and the x squared is going to drop on this side, and we end up with a trinomial most of the time. All right? So using this idea of FOIL, we can go ahead and get our trinomial that we will get most of the time. We'll usually end up combining the two middle terms. Let's look at another way to go ahead and see this. All right. FOIL itself, okay, is distribution. It's hard to see the way I drew it before, so let's look at it a different way. I need to do my first ones, which is my x times my x. That gives me x squared. My outer is actually taking my x and distributing it to the last number in another binomial. That's my outer x and my outer there. Now here I have a positive and a negative. Okay, so I get a negative 6x. Okay, so my signs are different here. Okay, so I basically took the first x and distributed it to both pieces in the second. Now I could do the same for my inner. My I is my 4 being multiplied by the first thing inside the second binomial, which is the x. And this could be plus 4x. And then the last is actually taking the 4 and multiplying it by this negative 6 in the back. And this is a positive times a negative, so we get a negative. 6 times 4 is 24. We still have like terms right here. Okay, now these are opposite signs, so we subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So I should have negative 2x. And then the x squared and the minus 24 tag on, and I have my trinomial. Okay. I encourage you to go ahead, try the next one, or try some of the ones from your classwork, and then pause the video while you try, and push play when you're done. All right, so using the idea of FOIL here, I'm going to go ahead, multiply x squared times x. Now this x has an exponent of 1. So 2 plus 1 gives me x to the third. Outer, x squared times negative 4 will give you negative 4x squared. Inner, 2 times x, gives me plus 2x. And 2 times negative 4 gives me negative 8. Now notice with this particular one, my two middle terms did not combine. The reason this happened was, if I go ahead and look at my leading terms in my binomials, they're not the same. They have different exponents. So when this happens, you will probably end up with a polynomial of 4 terms. Okay, because they won't combine. Sometimes they will, depends on the last number. But just get a feel that sometimes they may not combine, and it's okay. Just do whatever is there. All right? I'm going to do a few more. I encourage you to try them first, and then go ahead and see if you're right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So I have 2x times x gives me 3, or sorry, not 3, silly me, 2x squared. I have 2x times negative 2, which gives me negative 4x. I have 3 times x, which gives me a plus 3x. And a 3 times a negative 2, which is negative 6. All right. Combine my middle 2 terms. My middle 2 terms right here end up being minus x or minus 1x. And the 6 and the 2x squared come out to the front. So because my first x's in the first part of my binomial were the same, I ended up combining my 2 middle terms. Okay, so we're expecting the same to happen for the bottom one, because my x has a power of 1 here, my x has a power of 1 here, so I'm expecting to have to go ahead and combine some middle terms. Going ahead and foiling, I'm not going to show the arrows this time. I have 8x times x, which gives me 8x squared. I have outer, negative 5 times 8 is negative 40x. Negative 1 times positive x gives me negative 1x or negative x. And a negative times a negative for the last one is a positive. 5 times 1 is 5. Here I will combine my 2 middle terms. So I have 8x squared. Now my signs are the same, so minus 41x plus 5. Now you may be thinking, well, what if I instead of using the FOIL thing, I reversed these two? All right. Does it matter? No, it does not. You just got to make sure that you get everybody multiplied. Let's look what happened if I would did it this way. So I have still my 8x times my x, which is 8x squared. My negative 1 times x, which is minus 1x or minus x. My 8x times my negative 5, negative 40x. And a negative times negative gives me my plus 5. All that happened is my numbers are reversed, but they still are going to combine. All right? So go ahead, practice a little bit. We will be talking about this again on the next lesson. So work on the practice problems, ask any questions you have, and I will see you next class.